Hey guys, it's Mike here. Good to see you again. Everyone wants to release more music more frequently. Well, today I'm going to give you a few of my tips on how you can release more music in 2019. Check it out. There's no question that modern music trends are more towards more frequent single releases as opposed to the perhaps traditional album or EP format. So today I just wanted to give you a few brief tips that you can use to help you release more music on a more frequent basis to meet those market trends out there. A great place to start is collaboration. Now, a lot of artists out there nowadays are using collaboration as a genuine way to help release more music on a more frequent basis. The great thing about collaboration is it honestly doesn't matter what genre you're working in, because you can collaborate with people from a wide variety of genres. Now, initially you might think, if you're in a rock band, for example, that maybe you should only be collaborating with some other rock bands or people that work within your genre. I would suggest to not be afraid of collaborating with people from all different genres. You know, think outside the square. Some of the biggest collaborations in history are actually where there's been genre crossover. A good example is Walk This Way, which was a collaboration between Aerosmith and Run DMC. Now that is two highly unlikely collaborators that have come together to make a worldwide smash hit. So certainly don't feel discouraged when approaching artists to collaborate with. And as I said, don't feel you have to stick to your genre, think outside the square. I think it's important to note though, in terms of what level you're at as well. For example, if you're a beginner, you're probably going to have a lot of difficulty approaching a highly successful major label artist because they're not really going to have a huge incentive to collaborate with you in the sense that there's just an imbalance of where you're at to where they're at. So, but at the same, don't feel discouraged by that. I'd encourage you to go out there and find people that are maybe working at a similar level to where you're at, and people that are also in a situation where they're trying to build their fan base as well, and you can cross-promote and help each other in that way also. There's a lot of online groups you can join, like on Facebook as well, where you can just find other artists that are into the same things as you musically, and a lot of these Facebook groups have many people posting, looking for people to collaborate with, so that's also another avenue that you can explore. Outsourcing. Well, on the surface it probably sounds like a bit of a business term, but in the way I'm going to reference it today, it really is about what are the other musicians and professionals out there that you can utilize to help fast track your productions and help you release more material, and I guess remove that workload that you might have and some of those blockers that are preventing you from doing more material more frequently. I personally have self-produced a lot of my music and productions over the years, and whilst that's really satisfying from the perspective of you've got complete control both over the creative aspect and the production aspect, that's quite satisfying. I'm probably a bit of a control freak as well, so for me over the years that's just worked for me, but you could also argue that it's prevented me from perhaps releasing a lot of material frequently in my own regard. So my recommendation when it comes to outsourcing, think about those areas of when you're recording and writing music. What are those areas that maybe you get a bit frustrated with, or perhaps you feel like you're not quite as good as you might need to be in that area? It might be mixing, it could be mastering, it could be bass playing. Think about some of those elements that you can perhaps remove from that process and how much extra time will that buy you. So it's really about building a cohesive team of people around you that can be your go-to when you do need a bass track or a guitar track or an extra vocal or some backing vocals, or maybe some general help with song construction, production and post-production as well. Of course, there can be budget constraints as well, so you need to work within what your budgets are and what your constraints might be at the time, but certainly outsourcing is definitely a way to fast track your productions and get more material out there quickly. Having a super efficient method for recording demos really is a critical part of being able to record and release music more frequently. Getting bogged down in the nitty-gritty at that early stage can really stifle the creative aspect of everything and just slow down the whole process, and can really be quite a negative thing if you're finding recording and producing demos is a frustrating process for you. It's just going to take you that much longer to get to the end result. So my recommendation is have a really simple, fast way to get demos down. Don't focus too much on the production aspects of it, because that obviously is going to be fixed when you do the final recording. So have a system where you can just get material down quickly, so that it's easy to listen to as well, and doesn't sound like it needs too much work, so that you can make sense of what you've recorded. Just make sure it's super fast and super efficient and very accessible. Honing in on a particular style can really help you have a template to work from that you can actually release a lot more material quicker, because the reason for that is when you've got that fixed template in place, you can come back to it when you're starting each new recording, and you've got a base to work from, and then you're sort of building on top of a familiar process, so to speak. In my experience, that approach probably only works for a fairly short period of time, because you find yourself, you'll start repeating things, and things will start over a period of time becoming a bit stale, because you'll probably start feeling like you're doing the same thing over and over again. So that's really good for short bursts of releases that maybe lead up to a 4 or 5 track EP, and you want to stagger that release song by song, which is a very common method utilized by a lot of recording artists nowadays. So that's certainly another approach that you can take. Finally, keep it simple. It probably sounds simple on the surface, but I really can't stress enough in having all of your process really streamlined and effective, so that you're able to get through each stage of the recording really quickly and efficiently. A real big part of that is knowing what your message is. If you're finding that when you're writing and recording material that you actually don't know why you're doing it and what the end goal is going to be, that's going to be a serious blocker for you. Each time you go to get something down and get it prepared for release, you're going to consistently come across those mental blockers because you don't know what your why is. So that's a really important part of having that end goal in place, which really motivates you throughout the course of the recording. Well, I hope that's been a helpful overview for you on how you can release more music in 2019. As always, check out my website, mnproductions.com.au. I've got a lot of hints and tips on all various topics on music production. Feel free to drop me a line, and look forward to catching up with you next time. Cheers.